Good afternoon, Mr. Dixon.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
You waited a long time to see us today, haven't you?
Yes, ma'am.
So why don't you, let's get started. Introduce yourself. Tell us your name and DOC number.
Ma'am, Ivy Dixon Jr., 152850.
Mr. Dixon, my name is Cheryl Renatza. I'll be reading some information into the record, after which I'll ask you to confirm that information. Then I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Pete Freeman, seated to my far right. Your case has been assigned to him. He'll do the interview with you. Let me acknowledge some folks who have joined us today. We have, well, first you have an attorney, Ms. Lubin. Would you introduce yourself for the record?
Good afternoon. My name is Emily Lubin, and I'm here representing Ivory Dixon Jr. And I'd ask the board to reserve my comments to the end. Thank you.
Thank you. So we have also the Parole Project, Mr. Kerry Myers, your daughter, Kawana Champagne, and your son-in-law, Terry England, all who will be speaking on your behalf. And then here in opposition, we have a representative from the District Attorney's Office in Jefferson Parish. She's also asked to speak. At the very end, before we turn it over to Ms. Lubin, you'll be allowed to make a statement. Okay, you ready?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, Ivory Dixon, you're here this afternoon seeking a commutation of your sentence. You were sentenced in Jefferson Parish in June of 1991. You received a life sentence for a second-degree murder conviction. Mr. Dixon, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
You answer Mr. Freeman's questions.
Mr. Dixon, how long have you been incarcerated on this crime?
I've been incarcerated since 1991.
32 years?
Yes, sir.
And how old were you committed this crime?
I was 29,
Okay, how old are you now?
62.
Okay, what's your educational level?
10th grade.
Yeah, have you gotten your GED since you've been incarcerated?
No, sir.
Have you attempted to get your GED?
No, sir.
You've never enrolled in the GED program? Okay, tell us about what happened. I mean, tell us about the night before and the day after, because there's a few conflicting statements in the accounts, and I just want to get it straight in my head what happened and in what order.
On the day before,
Mm-hmm.
me and a friend of mine, we was out drinking, smoking crack, just hanging out. And a friend girl of mine was pregnant for me. I brought her to Mr. George's house. She used to clean up for him and drop her off. And things just got out of hand with her, with the guy who I'm in here for. He was offering a crack cocaine. I told her not to give it to her because she was pregnant. And things just got out of hand.
Okay. Did y'all have a fight that night before, you and this guy?
Yes, sir. It was that morning. We were just arguing that night when they called the police. And he came out and he told me to leave. Because he said that they wasn't smoking no crack, cocaine and stuff up there. And I told him, yes, there was. And he told me to leave, so I left.
So you left that night. Tell me what happened the next.
I left him when I went to work.
Okay.
I got off of work that morning. I come back. And I went by Joanne's house next door. And I asked her to go call Selena for me. Tell Selena I'm ready to take her home. But she told me she ain't wanted to go there. Because the police told me, don't go back there. So I went over, knocked on the door, and Kevin answered the door. And I asked him, tell Selena, come on, let's go. He told me that she wasn't going nowhere. So I pushed the door open. He pushed the door back. And when I really jammed the door, pushed it on him, he ran to go get a pipe. So when he ran to go get a pipe, I ran back to Joanne's house. And when I was running off in her door, she had a knife laying up on the table. I grabbed the knife and ran back to the house. And me and him was going at it, and when I was swinging at him, I didn't even know I had really hit him until his brother told me that he was bleeding. So I went downstairs and I left.
Why would you go back to that apartment if the cops told you not to come and your girlfriend didn't want you to go? What would make you do that?
Selena, I met Selena off the street, and me and Selena was, together, and she ended up pregnant for me. And I was trying to help her get off of cocaine because she was pregnant for me and I ain't want her on cocaine no more and no more drinking and stuff. Because I told her we weren't going to be doing all that no more. But when Kevin kept on insisting to give it to her when I'm at work, it just
Where did
made
you work?
sir.
Where did you work?
I ain't hear you, sir.
Where were you working?
I was working at Wall Shipyard at the time.
Okay. So when you went back to that house the next morning, were you on drugs or drunk?
I had got off of work that morning, me and my boss, we used to go to a bar and drink, shoot pool, just hang out for a couple hours. And I went to go pick up Selena. Yes, I was drinking.
Did you do drugs back then?
Yes, sir. Yeah. Smoke crack.
Okay. Had you smoked any crack that night before or that morning?
Yes, sir.
So you wanted her to quit drugs, but you wasn't gonna quit it. That
No.
what you kind of telling me because of the baby, you wanted her to quit, but you were still using.
Yes, sir.
Okay. What kind of treatment have you received, if any?
Since I've been in prison, I found Jesus and I don't smoke, I don't drink, and I never will again, because that was my downfall. And I'm very sorry and very remorseful because Kevin was a friend of mine. And I'm sorry for what really took place between me and Kevin. Each and every day it bothers me because he was a friend of mine.
Hey, did you take any drugs, or alcohol classes since you've been in prison?
Yes, sir.
Which ones have you taken?
Taking alcohol anonymous and taking I've taken many of them, alcohol anonymous.
Any classes you've taken dealing with drugs?
Yes, sir. I got certificates and things on all that. I took all that when I first come up here during 91, 92, 93. That's when
What did you learn from those classes?
I learned to not drink and smoke drugs because it don't do nothing but take away from you and put you in a different frame of mind. And I haven't messed with drugs since I've been locked up.
They understand not messing with them since you've been locked up, but how you gonna assure me to stay sober if you get on the outside? What are you gonna do?
I promise
It's
you,
your pride.
I never drank again. I promised my daughter I never drank again. Never drank, never mess with no drugs. I never do nothing that ain't gonna fit my body.
But if I see you took Living in Balance 1 and 2, what you learned from that?
Living in Balance was a very understanding program to learn to be independent and learn to be patient, and it's so much about it. I really enjoyed it.
Your anger management, your class you learned. What did you learn from that? Age you raised.
I learned to not to get angry about anything. And I learned to do the right things. And I learned to be patient about everything. And my life have changed a whole lot.
Okay, it says you had a total of 3 kids. I heard you mention your daughter. You have contact with your children?
My oldest daughter, Kiwana, and my second daughter, she was 6 years old when I left the street. And my last daughter, that's the one by Selena, she 32.
So do you have contact with the one that's by Celine? Y'all speak to each other?
Yes, I do. I have talked with her, and my sister married to her brother, and I stay in touch with my daughter. I got pictures, everything of them.
See that you were on supervision on probation at the time this happened. Now, we both due to the instant offense. The criminal record, you have a few arrests. What was the simple kidnapping charge about in 1987?
A kidnapping charge? They never kidnapped no one.
You don't remember that one from 1987.
I never kidnapped no one.
All right, you have law enforcement opposition from the chief and the sheriff. The DA is here, he's gonna speak to us. Your family is unopposed to you getting out. Your sister Gladys Divinity and your niece Liddy Divinity. Yes, and you the subject's sister Deborah Carter at first didn't reply, but then says now she's not opposed to you getting out. What's your job on the inside? What do you do there now?
I work at the training cabinet. I'm a ground audit. I work inside, outside. Do a little bit of anything they want me to do, really, get the job done.
Okay, your risk is low. You had 45 write-ups. Your last was in 2013. What was that write-up about?
I was working at the ranch crew. I was fixing fences for the ranch crew. And me and the crew went out, put a fence up, where they would end up and put the fence on the wrong side of the posts. And our boss, he came the next morning and he just, rolled me up for it.
Yeah, that's for 30W.
I thought 30W was more of I guess they use it to whatever charge they finna give you. Is it right? I'm sorry.
You don't remember what you did? When
No.
you got the third job?
He said I talking crazy to him, but
That's what the 30W is, Warden.
No, sir. The 30W was for him and another inmate, were fixing the fence together, and he stated to the offender, if the wire slips from that hammer and the wire or hammer hits me, I'm gonna have to take that hammer and do you something.
Okay. Well, that was while working on the pieces.
Yes, sir.
I see you got tons of awards. Especially you got a lot of stuff with dealing with drugs. So you must realize that that's one of your problems. I mean, alcohol and drugs. You got to stay away from it. And I'm just a little concerned about how you planning on staying away from it. I think you can need more than just what you're stating, but we'll talk about that later. I have no more questions.
All right, thank you. I don't see any other questions from my colleagues. Can we hear from the parole project?
Hey, Warden Renatza.
I'm sorry. what-
Yeah, I'm sorry, I skipped you.
That's okay. I just want to let y'all know that he did do the literacy class, but he didn't take the TABE test. I think he was unable to pass. I don't think he was on a level to get a GED. But he do have a certificate for participating in literacy. And he has a lot of certificates for AA and NA, and he did the 12-step program.
Great, thank you. I appreciate you. Mr. Myers.
Again, good afternoon. Kerry Myers with Louisiana Parole Project. We certainly want to support Mr. Dixon. 31 years on this offense. It was said probably more times today than you can count. There are no good. They're all bad. They're all offenses are bad. In this particular case, Mr. Dixon's drug addiction and his love for his pregnant girlfriend kind of led him to some thinking that led to this crime. Sometimes, in this particular case, he did the wrong thing, at least for maybe what he thought was the right reason, trying to protect. And it turned out with tragic circumstances. That's no excuse for his actions. But he's worked on those things. He's recognized that drugs were his problem. It was just stated how much work he has done on that. This is a clemency recommendation, and he still has the opportunity to continue doing that between now and the time he might come up for parole. He still has the time to put a sober living plan in place should he be granted parole. His last write-up was in 2013 for a work mess up. I'm glad I didn't get write-ups for all the times I messed up something on my job. But he's taken victim awareness. He's taken thinking for a change. He's taken living in balance. He's taken anger management. He has taken inside out dads. He's done victim accountability letter training. Mr. Dixon certainly hasn't just sat there for 31 years. He's done the work. He continues to do the work. And based on his age, based on his time served, based on the work that he's done, based on the support system, when he leaves parole project, he has a permanent long-term residence with his daughter and his sister who live in the same area. We would just ask that Mr. Dixon get this opportunity today by granting him his recommendation.
Thank you. We'd like to hear from the daughter, Ms. Kawana Champagne.
Good evening. Can y'all hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, good evening, honorable members of the parole board. My name is Kiwana Champagne. I'm the daughter of Ivory Dixon. My condolences to the family, to the victim family. My condolences to the victim family, I'm sorry. I thank you for the opportunity to speak today on my father's behalf. My father has always been present in my life, before and during incarceration. His love, his guidance, and support has contributed to the person I am today. For the last 32 years, he was able to repent and reform into a better man. He has abundant support with family and friends to transition in society. He will have a stable living structure with his sister Gladys Divinity. We'll make sure he stays stable and clean and continue any drug classes that he needs. I know if given the opportunity, my father will be a productive citizen, willing to assist his family, friends, and community. Thank you for your time and consideration. And I also have my uncle Stephen, which is Ivory Dixon brother, to speak. I don't know if y'all have that on there, but we on the same Zoom. Is that fine?
No, I don't. I have Mr. Terry England who will be speaking,
Okay,
but we'll make a note that he's here in support.
yes,
I see you. Thank you, sir.
thank you.
Mr. England, can we hear from you? You're on mute.
Yes, ma'am. Can you all hear me?
We can.
Yeah, how y'all doing? Yeah, this is Mr. England. Ivory Dixon is my
Where's that
partner.
phone?
Ma'am?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, me and his daughter have a child together. And I came to visit Mr. Ivory Dixon like about 6-7 years ago. And I met with him in person, and I think he deserved a second chance, you know. He's a better man. And at the time this offense took place, I was young. I was a teenager when this situation occurred. And like I say, I can witness, I remember, you know, my uncle and Mr. Dixon, they were brothers, they were partners, best friends, you know. Now I don't know, I guess it was just the drugs that got in between them two men, because they were friends at the time. I used to come all the time by my uncle's house and see Ivory Dixon and my uncle, the one who, you know, he stabbed or however it took place, but they were real close, you know, and I guess it was just the drugs that led to this situation. But I do believe that Mr. Ivory Dixon deserves a second chance. I spoke with my mother, and my mother also spoke with that attorney, Ivory Dixon attorney, and the people on the pardon board, whoever called my mother, spoke with them and asked the family was it okay, how they felt about Mr. Dixon making parole or coming home. So my family have no problem with it. My mother's okay with it. She said, Mr. Dixon, you know, he served enough time for that crime, you know. He's been in jail over 30-some years, you know, and he deserves a chance. Like I said, before this all happened, we was young. But now me and his daughter, you know, we got a son together. He's grown now, you know, and he deserves a second chance to come home and get to know his grandson as well. And I'm in support of Mr. Dixon coming home.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much for your participation. We appreciate your remarks. Mr. Dixon, is there a statement? Oh, I'm sorry. Let's hear from the DA's office. Mr. Meyer.
Good afternoon, Randy Myers, Assistant DA Jefferson Parish. We're opposed to Mr. Dixon's request for a commutation of sentence. We do not believe that 31 years is sufficient in the facts of this particular case for him to get a commutation of his sentence. The first thing one needs to do in order to rehabilitate himself is to accept what happened at the time of the crime. And I usually don't get into the facts of the case. I look more as to what the inmates have accomplished while they've been incarcerated and what they've done. And I'll briefly state with that, there are many inmates that have taken a lot, significantly more programs than Mr. Dixon has done, that Mr. Dixon has completed and are more deserving. But let's look at what happened in this particular case. The reason this crime occurred is because Mr. Dixon had to stay away from his girlfriend because he had beat her. He beat her the day before, which is why she left and went and stayed with the victim's family overnight. The next day, Mr. Dixon went to the house, knocked on the door, there was an argument, and he stabbed Mr. Martin. The record shows that Mr. Dixon stated that he, Mr. Martin, and his girlfriend was smoking rock cocaine the night before the incident occurred. So his statements that he was there trying to stop his girlfriend from, Mr. Martin from giving his girlfriend crack cocaine because she was pregnant isn't supported by the facts that it is. So for those reasons, we are opposed to using.
We need everybody to mute. Let's ask Mr. Dixon if there's a statement he'd like to make before we turn it over to Ms. Lubin. Mr. Dixon,
Yes, ma'am.
you'd like to make a statement?
Yes, ma'am. I'm very remorseful for what took place, and I'm very sorry for what happened. It wasn't meant to happen. And I ain't set it up to do so. And I want the family, I'm sorry. And I hope they forgive me for taking Kevin's life. I ain't meant to take Kevin's life. I ain't wanted to take Kevin's life. He was a friend of mine. And just let drugs and alcohol got between us. And I'm very sorry.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Ms. Lubin?
Yes, thank you for your time today. Just briefly, when I met Mr. Dixon, I was truly struck by how open and honest he was with me. He showed emotion and remorse in every meeting that we had for what occurred. It was also very clear how much love he has for his family, how much faith he has, and that he's, only has grown over time through his time in Angola, and what a hard worker he is. And if released, he has shown a real desire to help other people who are struggling with these issues. He's already worked with people in his own family to try to get them back on the correct path. And that's what he has expressed that he would like to do if he were given the opportunity for release. Now, unlike 32 years ago, he knows how to handle his emotions, and he wants to share those life lessons and those journeys with others. He really has transformed himself. His father's death, who he relied on for everything, really sent him into drugs, into alcohol, into a lifestyle that was not true to his character. And those decisions led him to kill Kevin Martin. That was also a couple years prior, his previous only conviction for attempted simple burglary that he was on probation for at the time that he also murdered Kevin Martin. Since that time, while he's been at Angola, he's really worked to address the root causes of these issues through working on his substance abuse, through his extensive religious programming, his attendance at church, his Bible classes, his many programs in that respect, as well as his other rehabilitative programs, which include Malachi Dads, the Victim Accountability Letter Training, Cage Your Rage, and the other programs that have been mentioned. And he also has the support of the Parole Project if he were to be released. I've spoken to many of his family members who are all there to help him if he were to be released, with employment and with housing. There's also 2 staff members in Angola who supervise his work, who wrote letters for him speaking to his character and his work ethic during his time working at the Trading Academy for, I believe, around the past 9 years. And in addition, the fact that the sister of the victim is not opposed, and you all have heard from Terry England, the nephew of the victim. So in light of all of this and the contributions that he could make to helping people stay off the path that he went down and that he has turned away from towards a better future for himself and his family, I do request that you recommend commutation for Mr. Dixon for a term of 99 years with immediate parole eligibility. Thank you.
Thank you. I believe we are prepared to vote. Mr. Freeman?
Okay, Mr. Dixon, I do agree that the minute you got to prison, you started working on your drug problem. And that's what caught my eye when I saw so many certificates and so many awards for your drug problem. And you served 32 years. We have no opposition from the victims noted in the record. And you have worked on that problem, as I stated. So my recommendation is that we grant commutation and sentence to 99 years with immediate parole eligibility.
Mrs. Jackson?
I concur, sir. Vote today likewise is to recommend commutation to 99 years with immediate parole.
Mr. Rocha?
Mr. Dixon, good afternoon.
Afternoon.
Mr. Dixon, I'm going to vote to deny your request for supervision history. You were on supervision when you committed this crime. You have prior criminal history. You have history of violent offenses, kidnapping, assault, and other various violent offenses. The DA's office is strongly opposed, and you have law enforcement opposition. For those reasons, I'm going to deny your request.
Mr. Mirabella?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Mr. Dixon, I enjoyed your interview. I think you were pretty honest with us. My vote would be the same as Mr. Freeman. My vote would be to recommend to the governor that we commute your sentence to 99 years with immediate parole eligibility. Good luck to you.
Thank you.
Mr. Dixon, I am a little concerned that maybe you weren't altogether forthcoming with us based on the information provided by the DA's office. But I am impressed with the work that you've done. I agree. You probably could have had some more programs. You need to work on that. But based on the age and the length of incarceration, you do have the support of the Parole Project. My vote today would also be to commute to 99 years with parole eligibility. So you've received 1 vote that was unfavorable, 4 votes that were favorable. So we'll make that favorable recommendation to the governor's office on your behalf. Good luck to you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am.
For Nambo, that concludes our business at your facility. Thanks for accommodating us. We'll adjourn at 5:02.
Okay, y'all have a good afternoon or evening.
I'm not sure if he realizes what just happened. So it's a 4-1, which means it's going to go to the governor. And then the governor will ultimately make a decision or not. And I don't know how the governor reacts, frankly, when he sees a 4-1. I don't know what like his odds are of getting it commuted. But Mr. Roche throwing down the hammer again. You don't want any piece of that. It's interesting. It does seem that he was just straight up lying. You know, he said he painted the story that he killed him because he was giving his pregnant girlfriend crack. But then the DA is like, yo, like, that's not why. You were smoking crack with him just the day before. He killed him for other reasons. Your track record sucks. You have all this other violent stuff on it. But it's interesting, like, how could yeah, so we see this time and time again where people just don't want to admit the truth, or they've created their own alternative reality in their mind, making them not to be as evil, right? Like he needed to feel justified about his crime, which is, here's a man giving a pregnant woman, a pregnant addict crack, and I'm going to kill him because that is not okay. In reality, that wasn't, I don't believe that was, based off of what the DA said, I don't believe that was the case at all. So he hasn't come to terms with the truth of the situation. Now, with his age and the family not opposing, do you think he's going to come back and murder again at his age? Do you think he's going to come back and... I think I'm okay with being paroled because of his age and because the family doesn't have opposition and he's been away for 33 years. You know, this is kind of like a classic scenario for parole. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this.